ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده ولا أمة بعد أمته ولا كتاب بعد كتابه ولا شريعة بعد شريعته. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سلك الله له طريقا من طرق الجنة، أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أيضا: العلماء ورثة الأنبياء. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم، ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Respected ulama and scholars, distinguished guests, and above all, the graduating students for whom and because of whom we have gathered here. We start off by praising Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah ta'ala has bestowed His favors upon us, such favors that we would be unable to enumerate and count. Says Allah in the Quran, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If you try and count the favors of Allah, you would be unable to do so. And amongst those that Allah Ta'ala has granted us a deen in which He has made knowledge compulsory. طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ. The acquiring of knowledge is a compulsion upon each and every ummati. So when you take it from that aspect, an ignorant Muslim is a misnomer. It should not exist in our dictionary. For someone to say that a Muslim is ignorant goes against our teachings, because knowledge is compulsory, is not an option. And we send salutations upon our beloved Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who has given us the emphasis upon knowledge. Indeed, for the graduating students, the time of the Khatm of Bukhari is a very momentous and a very wondrous occasion. I can still remember my Khatm of Bukhari. I can still remember what I wore. I can still remember where I sat. And almost verbatim, I can still remember the words of my Ustad, Hazrat Mufti Wali Hassan Sahab, when he gave the last lesson of Bukhari Sharif. I heard it many a times, which has been recorded, so therefore it is very fresh in my memory, some aspects of which inshallah I will share today with the graduating students. Let me start off by saying that we know that when we graduate, this is not the end of our studies. It's not the end of our educational career. It is rather the beginning of our education. Our ustads used to tell us many a times that when you graduate and you complete your studies, the only thing that has happened is that you have a capacity to study. You have the capacity to make mutala. Your mutala hasn't come to an end, and it will be very sad if we regard this to be the end of our educational journey. This is only the beginning of our educational journey. Hazrat Mawlana Abul Hassan Nadwi Rahmatullah Ali, one of our great scholars, used to say, is jahan se aage aur jahan bhi hai. Beyond this particular existence, there is another existence. Let me also say that we know that together with the privilege of being an alim, and of course there is a great privilege. There is a privilege in this worldly world where you are granted respect. I will speak about that, what Imam Ghazali has made mention of with regard to that respect. But he is also, together with the privilege, there comes a responsibility. There is a great privilege. I read one of the hadith and recited it. The ulama are the heirs of the Anbiya alayhimu salatu wasalam. To be the heirs of the Anbiya alayhimu salatu wasalam is undoubtedly a very great privilege. In Tafsir Azizi, Hazrat Shah Abdul Aziz Muhaddith Delvi Rahmatullah alayhi has quoted a narration in which he says that on the day of Qiyamah, Allah Ta'ala will address the ulama, and Allah will say that I did not give you my knowledge to punish you. If I wanted to punish you, I would not have given you my knowledge. I have given you my knowledge to favor you, go into Jannah. So there is no doubt that there is a very great privilege and there is a great virtue with regard to being an alim. Man salaka tariqa yaltamisu fi ilma, whoever seeks a path seeking knowledge, Allah Ta'ala eases his path towards Jannah. But together with that privilege comes a very great responsibility. And may I dare say that in today's time, together with the privilege, the challenge because of the age that you and I are living in is far, far more greater. The challenge has become very, very onerous. It is such, the same Imam Muhammad rahmatullah alayhi, one day his daughter saw him studying in the early hours of the morning, and he used to study almost throughout the night. And she said, "Oh my father, people are sleeping, and every night you are burning the midnight oil, seeking knowledge and reading and going through your books." And he said an amazing thing. He said, "Oh my daughter, people are sleeping, assured that the ulama are preserving the deen. If we also go and sleep, who will preserve the deen?" So that with that virtue you have to bring and weigh the privilege with the responsibility. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam had said one of the responsibilities, which is a very famous hadith, which I'm sure many of the asatiza might have related to you during the course of your studies. يحمل هذا العلم على من كل قرن عدو له من كل خلف عدو له ينفون عنه تحريف الغالين وابتهال المبتلين وتعويل الجاهلين. That throughout the ages there will be people who will carry the responsibility of ilm. They will bear the responsibility of ilm. And that responsibility would include, what would it include? It would include something very, very interesting. They would refute the distortion of the extremist. They would refute the distortion of the extremists. They would challenge the distortion of those who are on falsehood. And they would challenge and they would address the false interpretation of the ignorant. I mean, three major responsibilities Allah would give to the ulama. That they would refute the distortion of the extremists. Now this is something very, very interesting. And I think I might just spend a few minutes on this. Because we all know that Islam is a religion of moderation. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We have made you a justly balanced ummah. An ummah that doesn't fall into the extreme. And let me tell you what is, when we talk about moderation, the ulama have said that the middle path between the two extremes is moderation. So let me take this desk in front of me. So the two extremes would be the two positions that are here. The middle path would be something that you would be able to see that this is the middle path. And part of refuting the extremists would be that we refute the one extreme, that will be extremism. The other extreme would be falling short of the limit. Sometimes the difficulty would be if you don't see the two extremes, you would not be able to get the middle path. So you have to be able to understand the two extremes to be able to get وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We are ummah that is justly balanced. In every aspect of our religion, you will find that there is a balance. In every belief system, in every amal, in every action, in every attitude, we are the one who strongly adhere to the middle path, the moderate path. Take our belief in Allah Ta'ala. The two extremes would be one extreme is people who don't believe in Allah. How they do that, Allah knows. And everything seemed to be according to them working completely in a vacuum. It doesn't happen like that. But that is what they believe. On the other extreme, there are those who believe in more than one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is a moderate path between those two extremes? You have understood the two extremes. What is a moderate path? Believing in one supreme Allah. Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam told unto his companions of the prison, Ya sahiba sijn, a'arbabu mutafarriqun, khayrun amillahu al-wahid al-qahar. O my inmates of the prison, is many lords better than one supreme Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Look at our belief in Allah in the belief in the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam. The two extremes. Now let us look at the two extremes. Then you will be able to find the middle path. What are the two extremes? وَيَقْتُلُونَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَيَقْتُلُونَ الْأَنْبِيَاءَ بِغَيْرِ حَقٍّ. They killed the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam without any justification. What about us? What about the present generation when they kill the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam? And on the other extreme, what is it? They attributed divinity to their prophets. قالت النصارى المسيح ابن الله. So now when you understand the two extremes, now you will know the middle path. What is the middle path? We show that respect to our prophets that no ummah has shown such respect. Wallahi lazim. No ummah had shown love to the Prophet the way we had shown love, with all our weakness. We are people who will, the Persian poet had said, perhaps you can take a chance with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't take a chance with Muhammad. This ummah won't leave you. Right? So we had shown that respect. Imam Malik rahmatullah alayhi, because it's a dars of hadith, let me make mention of it. He was wincing in pain while giving the dars of hadith. And every time the students noticed him wincing in pain. And they said after the dars, Imam, what has happened? Why are you wincing in pain? He said, look at the back. Look at my kurta at the back. And when they lifted up their kurta, they saw a scorpion had stung him 17 times. And he said, why didn't you tell us before? Why did you bear the pain? And he said, I felt ashamed for my pain to leave the teaching of the hadith of Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So we showed on one hand, we didn't forget killing, we didn't show any disrespect to our Prophet. Allah Ta'ala maintain us on that. On the other hand, we were very, very cautious and sensitive with regard to attributing divinity or attributes of divinity to our beloved Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and we still need to be sensitive about that. Because you mustn't go to the other extreme. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saw a person making dua, MashaAllah wa Masha'a Muhammad, what Allah wishes and what Muhammad wishes. Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Ataj'alu lillahi nidda? Are you associating me with Allah? So you see the balance. And part of that balance is, we don't fall short of the limit. We can never ever allow us to make a change in our religion because of our weakness. وَقَبِلْتُ جَمِيعَ أَحْكَامِ سَمِعْنَا وَعَطَعْنَا غُفْرَانَكَ رَبَّنَا وَإِلَيْكَ. We accept, and Allah we will follow. The first thing is we accept the commands of Allah. We have no doubt with regard to any command of Allah. In Imani Mujmal we say, وَقَبِلْتُ جَمِيعَ. Allah, we have accepted all of your commands. Sami'na, we have heard, and inshallah we will follow. Follow will come afterwards. But the first thing is we will submit to every command of Allah. We will not in any way cast doubt on any command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether we can understand it or we can't understand it. But we will accept it and we will submit to it. On the other hand, we will not camouflage our weakness by changing the deen. And yet on the other hand, we will stay away from going beyond the limits. And extremism is situated at the furthest point of the corner, furthest point of the medium, the middle path. And Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has warned us with regard to it when he said, Halakal mutanatti'un, those who nitpick, they will be destroyed. Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Iyakum wal ghulu fid din. I advise you and I warn you to stay away from extremism in religion. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said this when at the time of Hajjatul Wida, Sahaba, some of them were brought very big stones, and some of them brought medium stones. And Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam picked up the medium stones and said, this is the type of stones you must stone the jamarat with. Don't pick up the big stones. And every year at the time of Hajj, we'll get one reel, Someone will take out all, whatever his weakness was, and all his enmity of shaitan will take up something, and he will go and he will make a spectacle with regard to going hitting the jamarat. One day I even saw someone taking a gas stove and going to hit the jamarat. So this is what is Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, stay away from extremism in religion. Because the people of the past, they were destroyed because of extremism. We are seeing in some ways that particular aspect. One of the harms with regard to extremism is too disagreeable for human nature to be able to adhere and to be steadfast to extremism. You can be steadfast upon something that is moderate. You can't be steadfast upon something that is extreme. And it turns people away from religion. And when you make deen inaccessible to people, make it sound as it is almost impossible for people to live by, you are not doing a service to deen. You are doing a disservice to deen. When Allah Ta'ala and Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had said, Ad-deenu yusrun, Deen is easy. مَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Allah hasn't made deen to be something that is, difficult for people to maintain and to uphold and to be able to practice. Now, the one aspect with regard to ulama throughout the ages has been that they have always seen what was the need of the age and they dealt with it. So it was, I can give many examples, but I'll just go through it. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal dealt with the masla of Khalqul Quran, right? The creation of the Quran. And he opposed the rulers of the time when they had another view. And he felt that because of that view, the sanctity of the Quran could be compromised. So he took a stance. And he took such a stance that even when he was punished, one person came and he said, leave me, I will give him such punishment that he won't be able to bear it. He won't be able to bear it. And he had a particular fine type of whip that as he whipped Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, his flesh started flying in the court of the king while he was being punished. After all, he was such a great alim, so well respected. One of the courtiers of the king fell in pity and he went to say into his ear, Imam, just for the sake of the Khalifa, just say and agree to what he had said. I will save you from this punishment. And Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahmatullahi said, go and tell your Khalifa, that Quran is ghair makhluk, it has not been created, it is the kalam of Allah, it is the speech of Allah, it is the attribute of Allah. The attributes of Allah has always been with Allah, will always be with Allah. I will save him from the punishment of the hereafter. So he took that. That was a challenge of the age. Let me give you, Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi did with the same with the Mu'tazilites and all of that. Later on, Mujaddid al-Fasani rahmatullahi alayhi opposed Akbar with regard to Deen Ilahi, making all the deens into one amalgamation. Right? Today we might find that the Abrahamic religions which is there, I don't know whether it is a political concept or a religious concept. If it is a religious concept, it's not something new. It happened in the time of Akbar. Right? So that time Mujaddid al-Fasani rahmatullahi alayhi took a stance against it, and despite the fact that it had the backing of the state, it did not find any favor afterwards. The moment for a very short period of time there was some charcha about it, people talked about it, but afterwards it went away. Let me give you a case study with regard to Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, and this is very interesting. And I will just give you a case study with regard to Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi to understand what an alim is supposed to study the age in which he is living in, and then understand the challenge and be able to deal with it. So Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi was the most famous alim and the most famous scholar of Baghdad. Right? Everyone used to pursue him. He used to be the one who was mostly respected. He was the one that everyone wanted to speak in their occasions. And then Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi felt that something was missing in whatever he was doing. He saw and he's written. And if I were, I would tell the students that Abdul Rahman Mangera, has in White Thread Press has translated Hazrat Mu'abul Hasan Nadwi rahmatullahi alayhi's Tarikh Da'wat wa Azimat in a most beautiful manner. And even if you just read that portion of Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, it is worthy of reading. Where he say Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi has written that for the four groups of people that he had to contend with in his time, the fuqaha, the batinis, who insisted on a hidden knowledge, the philosophers who claim mastery of logic and reason, and the Sufis. Imam Ghazali was not inspired by what he had seen. And he felt that he was feeling so much that he felt that he left all his positions. He left everything. And he said, Allah Ta'ala chained my tongue because I wasn't happy with what I was seeing. I felt there was a vacuum in the ummah. There was a vacuum in what I was seeing. And he went away in seclusion for 11 years. 11 years he went to seclusion to make tarbiyat, to go and study, to go and gain, proficiency, gain spirituality. Perhaps he would have stayed in that particular way. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to take some work from him. And Allah ta'ala brought him back, and he writes in his own language, he said, I came back to refute two things, to refute the philosophers and the atheists, and to restore the upper hand of Islam, to revive the moral teachings of Islam. And just to give you an example of what he had said, very interestingly, he wrote many things with regard to the vices of the time, of his time. One of it he wrote was Hubbe Jah, love of the self. Hubbe Jah, love of your position, love of respect, love of individual position. And he quoted it and said that love for position and love of the self is even more worse than love for wealth. Love for position is even more worse than love for wealth. And he gave 3 reasons. The 3 reasons he gave is that one of the reasons is that Jah becomes a means of wealth. So wealth you can earn, but Jah becomes a means of wealth. You earn wealth through the means of people respecting yourself. The second thing that he had made mention is that Jah brings respect. Wealth does not necessarily bring respect. So a wealthy person is not necessarily respected even if he has means. But a person who has got Jah and he's got ilm and he's got knowledge, he doesn't understand that that is a hidden spiritual disease sometimes. If he does not careful with regard to it, it brings respect. And the third thing that he had made mention is wealth can be lost, credibility very, 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 very seldom is it lost. When people become they become muttaqid of someone, they regard someone to be someone who is their sheikh, they will follow him irrespective of what happens. So he has made mention. One of his, when I found this, Mawlana Sheikh Zahir was making mention with regard to the salary of the ulama and that. So Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi made mention of a very amazing thing. He said in his time, he said there was a need for people to study medicine. But no one wanted to study medicine because there was greater wealth in becoming an alim. There was greater wealth and respect in becoming an alim. And go read that portion where he said that no one wants to become and study medical science because there was no money and no respect in it. And now there was people, that time the people of ulama used to not only gain knowledge and not only give knowledge, and they used to be rewarded with regard to it, they should oversee inheritance. They used to oversee waqf. So he said that it is so sad that there is a need for medical science and no one is studying medical science because there is no respect and no wealth in it. And today it is the opposite. But we have to do it because of our i'tiqad, because of our respect of it. And in South Africa there is a alim, who makes a lot of jokes with regard to the remuneration. We don't call it remuneration. We just say it is a hadiyah. So they say a Khalifa one day told the people that whoever can make the elephant cry, I will give him great amount of wealth. So one normal alim person who was a very humble person, he one day went to the elephant and he whispered something and the elephant started bawling and started crying. So everyone came back and said, now the king is going to give you a great amount of reward because he said you made the elephant cry. But what did you tell the elephant? He said, I went to tell you my monthly salary. So yeah, that is what it actually happens. But what I'm trying to say that Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, this is a challenge that he took up. And then one of the things that he had done was that he wrote Tahafatul Falasifa. And that was the incoherence of the philosophers in an engaging, penetrating style. The philosophers were undermining the foundation of Islam. The theologians tried to shield it but did not strike at the roots of philosophy. Ghazali was the first man to combine a profound knowledge of religious sciences with a detailed study of philosophy. So when he refuted philosophy, he didn't only refute philosophy from Quran and Hadith, which was easier to do, but he studied philosophy. You see, philosophy at that time, metaphysics, mathematics, like maths is a science, but does not go against deen. 2 plus 2 is 4, might not be a spiritual aspect, but it does not go against deen. But religion comes into conflict with metaphysics. So what Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi did at that particular time is he struck at the root of philosophy by not only quoting Quran and Hadith, but studying what was wrong with philosophy, and he refuted it from its own writings. I always tell people today that the civilization that is dominant, that today we refute it from Quran and Hadith. How much have actually gone into the civilization and looked into that civilization and found out the faults and the flaws of that which we are seeing on a daily basis. We are seeing it in our countries. But we have not been able to do so. We could have taken a cue from Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, the way he has dealt with it. So I can go on making mention of all of these things by saying that together with the privilege comes a very great responsibility. One of the aspects of responsibility would be to go to the people. While we have big programs, for example, sometimes you need to go door to door to change the attitude of people. In an era of doubt, we know that today doubt has been created. Doubt is a very antithesis of our faith, which requires certainty. Our deen requires certainty. Udkhulu fi silmi kafa. Conviction. It doesn't only require iman, it requires yaqeen, conviction. And we are living in an age where constantly intellectual doubts are created within the mindsets of the young people in our community. And someone had so correctly said, the information you consume every day, is the soil from which your future thoughts are going to grow. Now, if a youngster is growing up with intellectual doubts all the time, that is the future thoughts that are being grown into his mind. How are we going to challenge it? How are we going to change it? One of the ways is go to door, speak to people. It might not be as appealing as having a big audience, but we need to do it. Amongst our akabirin, I'll give you two examples. Mawlana Siddiq Banvi rahmatullahi alayhi, when he completed in Mazahirul Ulum Saharanpur, he was so talented, everyone wanted to keep him as an ustad in the Darul Ulums. Mawlana Siddiq Banvi rahmatullahi alayhi decided to go to Banda in Hatora. And that time there was no mahol and environment of deen in that entire region. Mawlana Siddiq Banvi rahmatullahi alayhi went to the people. He went to the people and he went door to door and he said, I'm not asking you for money. I'm asking you, give me your children. I want to bring them up and I want to give them tarbiyat. I want to educate them. He brought those children into his madrasas. They were villagers who did not know the etiquettes of urban living. They used to urinate in their bed and they regarded it as normal. Mawlana Siddiq Banvi rahmatullahi alayhi every morning used to get up and wash their beds with the urine that they had soaked their beds with. That is how Mawlana Siddiq Banvi rahmatullahi alayhi made that whole particular region an aspect of deen. We have to go, people. Mawlana Abdullah Kapudri came to our offices many times. So I got a book and he wrote something in that book. So one day I told him, Hazrat, in this book you related an incident. I want to hear that incident directly from your mouth. So he said, which incident? He said, the incident of Mawlana Madni rahmatullahi alayhi. After the partition of India, the people of India were very, very disillusioned. They were depressed. They were worried what's going to happen in the future. So Mawlana Madni rahmatullahi alayhi came to Gujarat. And he said he went to us. Mawlana Abdullah Kapuri said, I don't know how many different villages he went to go and say and tell them, you remain steadfast here. If you are going to leave, who is going to look after our madaris? Who's going to look after, our darul rooms? Who's going to look after our masajid that we have built here? The same thing Mawlana Abul Kalam Azad told the people in Delhi at that time. I know that there is a difference between Pakistan and India. I don't want to go into that difference. I'm just giving you the calling of an alim, how he saw the need and how he dealt with it. So Abul Kalam Azad told the people in Delhi, the minarets of Jami Masjid is calling unto you. If you leave me here, who is going to look after me? So Mawlana Madni, when, he said he must have went till the late hours of the night. He went to villages and tell people that the Allah that is in Pakistan, the same Allah is in India. He will protect you if you play your cards right, and if you remember and you have certainty, and you make dua to Almighty Allah and you follow the commands of Allah. He said he came one day, 12 o'clock at night. I asked the people, the organizers, I want to sleep in his room to make khidmat. So he said, Mawlana Madni rahmatullahi alayhi came 12 o'clock, midnight. He did not sleep on the bed that was prepared for him. He always used to sleep with a small bed, bedding that he used to carry with him from Deoban. And he put out that particular bedding. In the early hours of the morning, I'm a young person, I was sleeping away, and I heard someone crying like a baby. And I noticed 3 o'clock in the morning, Mawlana Madni rahmatullahi alayhi was awake, crying, oh Allah, protect the Muslims of India. That is the challenge of the alim that we have in today's time? Are we going to go door to door and meet the challenges and go out and meet the doubts that the people have? We have all of this, present Islam to the new generation in a language and a context within all the other inclinations, that they can understand Islam as a solution to their problems and their ills and the challenges that they have. That is a challenge that we have with all the inclinations, that whether it be the social media, as much as we criticize it, the fact of the matter is we have to make them practice upon deen with all those inclinations, with all those temptations, with all those things that are present. We still have to go out and present Islam to the new generation in a language and in a context with all the inclinations, that there is still, our solution is in Islam. To reconcile modernity without the loss of our tradition and our values. We're not going to get rid of our smartphones. We have to reconcile modernity with our own traditions, with our values. That is a challenge that we have here. So therefore we need a lot of tolerance. When we talk about, people having tolerance, I think the ulama in the future generations are going to have that tolerance, to be able to sit with people, to be able to have the sabr, to go through the doubts and to sit with the people and to change their minds. There's a humorous incident with regard to tolerance. They say, a husband and wife had an excellent marital relationship. For 50 years they had an excellent relationship. They had no secrets besides one small thing. So the wife had a small container, small box, which she kept under lock and key. She locked it all the time. She said, "This is my secret." So after 50 years of marriage, the husband said, "Now we are married for 50 years. Surely you can now reveal to me what is in that particular box that you are keeping a secret away from me." She said, "All right, now after 50 years, let me open it." So she opened it. So she had knitted a small, what we in South Africa call a doily. I don't know what you call it, where you put something and you knit it, and it becomes something that you put on the dressing table. You put some of the ornaments on that particular thing that you had knitted. So there was only half, something that was knitted, half. It was only knitted half. And there was something like 10, 20,000 pounds in a container or in a packet. So he said, "What is such a secret about this?" So he said, "When I was getting married, my grandmother gave me advice. And the grandmother said, every time you become angry with your husband, don't reply, go and knit something." So every time, whenever you became angry, I used to knit something. So husband was glowing in pride. "You mean after 50 years, only half of it you knitted?" I was such a good husband. He was very happy. He said, "What about the 20,000 pounds? He said, "That is all the doilies and all what I had knitted, I had sold it." So we're going to have that type of tolerance. We can't reply to the people by just going and make khidmat. And wallahi al-azim, this khidmat of people is such a great thing. I heard from my uncle. My uncle was very close to Mawlana Yusuf bin Nuri rahmatullah alayh. And he used to love the ulama of Deoband. And he used to love the scholars of, the great scholars. So one day he related this incident. I've tried looking for it, but I've never found it. But I heard it from him so many times. Mawlana Hifzur Rahman Shuharbi rahmatullah alayh was a person who fought for the freedom of India. So when he fought, he used to make khidmat of the people. He used to serve the people. So in Delhi station, when there was a great amount of apprehension and fear for the people who were now migrating to Pakistan, so he served the people for 1 month. Putting people in the trains, giving them food, training them, and giving them a great amount of serving them. And after 1 month, he went to his Sheikh Abdul Qadir Raipuri rahmatullah alayh, who was the Sheikh al-Kul. He was Sheikh of Mu'az, Sheikh al-Hadith, Mu'az Zakaria Sahib rahmatullah alayh, all of them. So, he went to him after a while and he said, "Hazrat, I want to ask you for forgiveness. That the last 2 months, because of whatever I had done, I was unable to finish my muraqabah and my zikr that you had told me to do." So every sheikh tells his murid that make this zikr, make this zikr. The last 2 months, or the last couple of months, I was serving the people. I was unable to finish my zikr. What should I do? how should I ask forgiveness for that I did not do my ma'mulat, I did not do my daily zikr schedule. You know what Muhammad Qadir Raipuri Rahmatullah told him? Ibzur Rahman, take my zikr of the last few months, give me the reward of serving the people. Take all my zikr, the reward that you got in serving the people, give me that reward in lieu of all my zikr. There are certain times you have to seize the moment. What is needed, you have to see what it is. Advocacy for Muslim interests, guiding our community to an Islamic values in a mostly secular order. And lastly, let me say what my Ustad Hazrat Mufti wal Hasan Sahib Rahmatullah Alayh told us when we finished. He said, you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you've got nothing in your cup, what are you going to pour to other people? You have to have spiritual development. You have to have your ta'alluq with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he advised us many beautiful things with regard to how you are supposed to keep ta'alluq with Allah. But one thing that it still stick in my mind, and he told us that, and I'll always remember that. I don't know how many times I've made mention of it in different forums. And he said that you must always have such a relationship that you can trust. All other relationships you can't trust. Sheikh Yasir made mention with regard to our friends during the course of his, while being the MC and speaking about the friends, how we need, sometimes the friends will be beneficial, sometimes they would be harmful. Friends you cannot trust. Sometimes when you need them most, they will not be there. And sometimes you will find that the wife will look at her husband and feel that the husband will look after me because he has always been doing so. And it can happen. Allah Ta'ala never make it, and Allah Ta'ala protect us from all types of difficulties. But sometimes it could happen that Allah Ta'ala can take the husband away and the wife is all alone sometimes. And sometimes the children that she relied upon will not be able to look after her. Sometimes we say that, one mother will look after 10 children, 10 children can't look after one mother. Right? This is also something that happens. So sometimes we all have, expectation that someone will look after us. But those particular type of relationships might not come to our assistance when we need it. And he said, therefore, keep relationship with such a being that you can always trust, will always come to your assistance. وَمَن يَتَّوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. He who relies upon Almighty Allah will become sufficient for him. He said, forget all other relationships. Do it to the extent that we are supposed to be good to other people. But reliance must be on such a relationship that will always come to your assistance. And that is our reliance and our assistance and our relationship with Allah. My time has elapsed. I've been told, given 40 minutes. I just went over 42 minutes. No, so inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan jaza. I hope Allah Ta'ala take you well and really take work from you. And I always tell people that one of the difficulties we have in today's time is that we are so busy refuting what Islam is not. Islam is not this, Islam is not this, Islam is not terrorism, Islam is not this, Islam is not that. We have forgotten to tell people the beauty of Islam. We're all the time telling people what Islam is not. When are we going to start telling people what the beauty of Islam is? And wallahi al-azim, I'm telling you, I'm firm of this belief that there is so much goodwill and there is so much beauty in Islam. It is a solution not only for our community, it is a solution for humanity. I have seen it in our country. When it is properly presented, when people see Islam, they want to accept Islam. And you see certain things that you see on social media. One person I saw, there's one whole particular TikTok, that he said that I looked at the Quran and I felt I'm going to take out, flaws in it. He said, after I spent almost 3 days only reading the Quran and I was absolutely engrossed. I never ever saw something so beautiful. And more people are doing that. When are we going to stop only refuting? We have got this whole particular mindset. Refute, this is not, this is not, this is not, this is not. When are we going to tell people what Islam is? Give an example, right? Amongst many examples. They told me 1 minute and I took advantage of it. Look at our greeting. Our greeting. Just look at our greeting. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You are making salam to someone and telling him, may the peace of Allah Ta'ala and the barakah and the mercy of Allah Ta'ala be upon you at all times. It is such a beautiful greeting. For someone who is a stranger to you, you are assuring him that I'm your well-wisher, I won't harm you. Right? And someone who is a friend, the salam actually conveys that friendship. I'm your friend. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. May Allah Ta'ala's mercy and peace be upon you. I'm making dua for you. Right? And at all times. Now look at the other particular greeting that is common. So the other greeting that is common, I don't want to we are not told to compare other with religion. But you tell someone good morning, good afternoon, good day, even if his mother passed away, you're still telling him good. Huh? And then you're telling him morning, good, afternoon, whatever happens to you, I don't care. I mean, it's so limited in its meaning compared to our greeting. So let us start also propagating the beauty of our deen. Allah has given you such a great responsibility and a privilege. And I make dua that Allah Ta'ala grant you the virtue of it also. And Allah Ta'ala make you fulfill the responsibility also. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.